The Fallen. Once nomadic space pirates and scavengers. Together, the outer walls of the last city on Earth shook in their terror. Their claimed regions of space were regarded as dead zones. Enter at your own risk, for you'll most likely come out the other end as scrap, or whatever else they do to their victims. Now, separated into these houses, they can barely even hold a single region on a planet. And it's more or less because humanity has multiple pressing concerns than the Fallen themselves. Don't mistake them, they're still a fierce and worthy opponent, one we should take very seriously and push them back aggressively, but they no longer shake the walls of our home with terrifying howls. Their four eyes glow bright white blue when they are alive, but once killed the light dies out. This makes you wonder, is there a light inside them, like there is a light inside us? They can survive in a range of environments and rely on ambush tactics to take out guardians. When they die, it appears as if their soul is being ripped from their body. Fallen houses are led by Kells, masters of their massive catches. The few catches that are left are believed to be part of the Fallen once massive contingency of warships. These are files pulled from the Cryptarchs, documenting all we understand and know of the Fallen from the past and current events. Fallen members ranking from lowest to highest. Shanks. They are airborne drone AI that possess minimal intelligence and attack in large numbers. They serve mostly as cannon fodder but can be deadly in large groups as they tend to concentrate their fire. Occasionally we see Mark II models in the field and they can have solar energy resistant shielding. Dregs. They are the lowest ranking Fallen in the chain of command. They are thieves driven by desperation and rage. They are crafty but tend to forfeit their position with their clattering and hissing. Dregs wield shocking daggers and pistols, and can be easily distinguished from other Fallen ranks by only having 2 fully developed arms as opposed to the usual 4. The other arms appear to be docked and prevented from fully developing until they have proven themselves worthy to become Vandals. Vandals. Riflemen of the Fallen's invasion forces. Vandals are of higher ranks than Dregs, with weapons capable of long-range attacks and deadlier force. The disadvantage of the Vandals' powerful wire rifle is their requirement for a long charge time. Captains. Fiercest of the Fallen hierarchy foot army, distinguished by their heavy armor, twin swords, and adorned cloaks. Captains have a sense of nobility about them and consider humanity to be an inferior race. They have a sense of rage about them, as they always seem to attempt to engage in close combat. They also have a short-range teleportation. Source and origin is unknown of this power. Barons. Barons differ very little from captains. The main difference is that they have a larger following of Dregs and Vandals. They also have their own personal skiff. Servitors. Floating spherical Fallen that have powerful attack capabilities, being able to dish out more damage than the rest of Fallen by launching void-like projectiles from an eye structure on the center of their frames. Each house has their own prime servitor, and a prime servitor produces minor servitors. Prime servitors are considered gods to the Fallen. The Fallen Archons worship the servitors as they are the Fallen's source of ether. Servitors are advanced AI created by Fallen. Their remains disintegrate into the void upon destruction. They also tend to explode as well, which leaves even less remains that turn into dust. Perhaps their intelligence comes from an ethical source, as they do produce ether seeds. Archons. High priests and chief engineers of the Fallen, serving as intermediaries between the servitors and Kells of each individual houses, much like translators. While the complete reason and needs for Archons are unknown, they tend to wield powerful abilities and be as fierce as captains in their battle capabilities. Kells. Leaders of a single house, once believed to be the ship's master in their section of the Fallen Armada. They declare what territory the house is currently trying to hold. It is possible Kells have died out and been replaced by captains of the highest ranking. There are known cases of captains replacing Kells, but no known cases of Archons replacing Kells. Walkers are not considered among the ranks of the Fallen, but I will mention them here for the sake. They are essentially Fallen tanks that resemble some Golden Age tech we used, perhaps stolen or refurbished tech from us. They function as autonomous drones to be deployed in the battlefield. While never used in large-scale battle, as they are rarely available, an army of walkers would be something to meddle with. They use large laser-guided plasma high-explosive cannons, electro-discharge shockwaves, electrical burst bounce mines, along with stored shanks and a chin-mounted plasma Gatling gun. The drone AI housing in the brain, which is exposed from cooling purposes after heavy amounts of damage are inflicted to the cooling systems, which happen to be in the housing of the legs, ironically. Guardians designed the Deacon RS-2 rocket launcher specifically to counter walkers as they became a problem in close-quarter engagements. The Houses of the Fallen. The Fallen may be one species, but they are separated into houses. At one time these houses have worked together, but they now fight against each other for territory and power. The reason for their separation is unclear, but it appears to be more of a territorial issue, like canine fighting in packs. That is the closest thing we are able to relate their inner psychological relationship of the Fallen to. House of Judgment. The House of Judgment is one of the oldest Fallen houses, and only has one known living member, Varkas, who currently resides in the Vestian outpost in the Reef. The house color is light green. Fallen are able to learn multiple languages, as we learn from Varkas. He is able to speak Earth Basic very well. House of Devils. One of the many Fallen armies. They have been present on Earth since the Great Collapse and were responsible for the destruction of London and the Battle of the Twilight Gap. They have been called the Scourge of the City by many Guardians due to their pirating nature and constant persistence of ridding Earth of all humanity. In their lair in Old Russian, they searched for Rasputin, the War Mind. Guardians put a stop to this and then began tracking down the War Mind on their own once he led a crumb trail to them through several of our old Golden Age planets that have been gone since the collapse. House of Kings. Very little is known about the House of Kings, though they seem to have a restricted lair inside the Cosmodrome in Old Russia. What is known is that the House of Kings seems to be very brutal towards the city and other fallen houses alike. It is rare to find a king wandering outside its lair on Earth, but even rarer to find them lurking in the Ishtar Sink on Venus, where they have seldom been found. Because of their secrecy, humanity is yet to fully understand their strengths and purpose. The House of Winter. They are distinguishable by their pale blue cloaks. There is evidence that they were present on Caracas during the collapse. Their Kel, Dracus, was killed by Guardians a few months ago on board his ketch, and their prime servitor, Simix Prime, is believed to have been destroyed long ago. What is left of the House of Winter is currently on Venus, along the Shattered Coast, and inside the Ishtar Academy. Reports say they patrol the Ishtar Sink region because of their interest focused on Golden Age ruins, or that their focus is directed on something else near the Vex Citadel above the Waking Ruins. Graylix, a Winter Baron, was also recently found and killed on Venus. Simix III was created by Simix Prime of the House of Winter, that as stated previously was destroyed long ago. Simix III was uniquely equipped to store large amounts of information and link itself between other servitors, perhaps as a replacement for the Prime. The House of Winter is also the only house to successfully break into the Prison of Elders. House of Exile. They are believed to have been created by desolate fallen that have fled to the moon. This threadbare house consists primarily of large amounts of dregs, shanks, vandals, and occasionally captains are present, leading their inferior numbers. They are said to be the outcast of malcontents who have been galvanized by pride, hate, and the desire for freedom, and are willing to make bold actions in order to secure their positions. The Ether Runner was a servitor that, judging by its name, freely gave the exiles their much-needed ether seeds. Frigoris was the Baron of the Exiles, their highest-ranking member. They had no Kel. The House of Wolves. Their Kel was killed off by the Queen of the Reef, and she assumed control of their house, merging them into her realm. Some of the house nobility was placed into the Prison of Elders. Meanwhile, she also incorporated some Vandals into her personal guard. While she generally managed to keep them under her control, some rebelled to join the House of Exile. Under the leadership of Skolas, Kell of Kells, the House of Wolves rebelled against the Awoken and caused havoc in the Reef, while forging alliances with other houses. The Queen opened the Reef to guardians of the city with the intent of recruiting them to put an end to the rebellion. This is where we now stand currently, with the House of Wolves, the Reef, and the Queen. House of Rain. With the uprising of the House of Wolves, we hear whispers of the House of Rain. Fall or burn, and heal the houses and make them whole, are sayings we hear repeated with the name of this house. Neither we are fond of. Notable high-ranking fallen. Calyx Prime. Calyx Prime is believed to be the prime servitor of the House of Wolves. Furthermore, he is believed to also be the focal point of all servitors, the servitor of servitors, if you will, where they all connect and intermediate with each other. While the House of Wolves and other houses of Fallen no longer communicate with each other, servitors supposedly still communicate with each other. That is, prime servitors still communicate with each other. When the Queen took over, Calyx Prime went missing. Asgore, the Archon Priest, killed on Venus, was the Archon Priest to Calyx Prime. It is believed the Prime is hiding on the moons of Jupiter with the Anaki group. Calyx 12 is a descendant of the Calyx Prime who was recently slain by Guardians. Asgore, the Archon Priest. Asgore was a prisoner in the Prison of Elders, and priest to Calyx Prime. He went to Venus in attempts to make ties with the House of Winter to retake the Reef from the Queen and regain control of the House of Winter. His attempts were in vain as he was struck down by Guardians because of the bounty placed on his head by the Queen. Skolas, Kell of Kells. He was once a noble of the House of Wolves, but once the Queen killed the first Kell of his house, he saw to uprise. The Queen intended for him to be a gift to the Nine, but he eventually broke free from the Prison of Elders and thus led the rebellion against the Queen, instating himself as the Kell in the process. He intends to reunite all the fallen houses once he has secured the Reef. Theories of the Fallen. The Fallen often worship that which is related to technology. Perhaps many lack the understanding of technology and simply worship that which they do not understand. Some would ask, why do they not worship the Vex? But as we have proven in other documentation, the Vex are not entirely machine. They do have biological origins. Also, Cabal and Fallen have never been seen together, fighting or working. We have no explanation for this. Their technologies are wildly different, as are their methods and motives. More research is needed for this. There may be no connection at all, but perhaps there is. Lastly, the light inside the eyes of the Fallen. The soul being ripped from their body, the consumption of ether seeds. It has been documented that starving Fallen have dimly lit eyes, as opposed to fed Fallen which have brightly lit eyes. This has only been recorded rarely in the House of Exiles on the moon when they are away from the Ether Runner and once the Ether Runner was destroyed. It is possible that the Fallen are ethereal beings that only use the bodies as vessels. Ether seeds further this connection to the vessel. It gives a better explanation as to why the Nine would take the fallen captain, now Kell Skolas, as a gift from the Queen, although little is understood about the Nine in general. It may also give more insight as to why the Hive Thrall and the Dreg appear to have such similar anatomy. But that is a topic that requires much more research. And until that is complete, the Cryptarch archives come to a close.